The news headlines: State government gives reasons for restructuring money owed commercial banks to federal government bonds. Digital map of Akwa Ibom State to be produced soon. And workers in the state advised against falsification of their records. Details of these and other stories in just a moment. Top of the morning, and thanks for joining us on the news. I am Samuel Udofio. The state says it will continue to provide succor to victims of flood and other national disasters in the state. Government's position was made known during a one-day seminar organized by the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA in collaboration with the State Emergency Management Agency SEMA. Patience John reports that the workshop was declared open by the Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ikpo.
Stakeholders in environmental and waste management sector gathered at the Akpan Semen Hall Government House to deliberate on how to properly manage waste and reduce the risk of flood in the state. Setting the tone for the discussion, the Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ikpo, thanked the National Emergency Management Agency NEMA for putting up the sensitization workshop. He reasoned that with the knowledge gained at the workshop, participants will be exposed to measures that will help lessen the risk of flooding in the state. He thanked Governor Udom Emmanuel for what he described as timely intervention on the Calabar-Itu Highway, which was almost divided into two by gully erosion, and for the 50,000 naira financial assistance to flood victims in some parts of the state.
Of course, government will continue to give support, palliative, both federal and state government, to victims of floods and disasters like this. The issue is how can we deal with it, or how can we not make it happen? And the only way you can make it not happen is to listen to what should be done.
Mr. Obiosio, who chaired the workshop, regretted the attitude of people, which according to him sometimes lead to flooding and other disasters. He said waste management is essential in curbing flooding and its attendant risk.
We implore you to be a change agent. One thing we have seen about environmental management is that the knowledge is even more than the mitigation and adaptation activities.
The South-South coordinator of NEMA, Mr. Benjamin Okene, said the agency has put several measures to mitigate the risk of flood in the country and has distributed relief materials to those affected in the different parts of the country.
Why do we have continuous perennial flood? Are we developing new layouts, having in mind that floods can occur? Are we putting in place measures to address this?
Papers were presented by the Permanent Secretary, Deputy Governor's Office, Lady Sylvia Ikpo, on flood management strategies, the role of disaster and emergency preventative strategies in flood control in Akwa Ibom State, waste management habits in Akwa Ibom State, implication on flooding by Elder Ime Ukpe. Other speakers, including Mr. Bodobot and Mr. Ifyo Nkang, advocated for public enlightenment on proper waste collection, storage and disposal, seeking professional advice before siting a building to avoid blocking waterways, and mobile sanitation courts to try offenders who dump refuse into gutters. They also identified lack of flood control measures, poor water and sewage management, human factors that promote flooding.
Given the huge cost of lives and properties lost resulting from emergencies occasioned by disasters, it is a desire of Akwa Ibom State government to shift emphasis from post-disaster relief to pre-disaster preparedness and planning.
Participants during interactive session asked questions that will enable them contribute to curbing flood incidents in the state. Patience John reporting.
The state government has cleared the air on the misconception following the proposed restructuring of commercial bank loans to federal government bonds. Addressing journalists in Uyo, the Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Akan Okon, stated that the restructuring platform was a palliative mechanism created by the federal government to ease the financial pressure of states in the course of servicing their bank loans. The report of the press briefing is presented in our studios.
The Commissioner said that government has spent a monthly sum of 3.5 billion naira to service its 64.5 billion naira loan owed commercial banks, and that with the present economic crunch arising from the consistent fall in oil price with a corresponding decrease in federal allocations to states, continuous payment of this huge sum may result in downward turn in the economy. Mr. Okon pointed out that the option of restructuring the loan to bond became imperative, as government will now pay about 300 million naira on bond servicing, which will span a period of 20 years. This, he said, would increase government's capacity to repay and would as well free about 3 billion naira for developmental programs and projects to better the lot of the people. He said one of the requirements from the Debt Management Office for the conversion was an enabling law from the State House of Assembly to back up the loan to federal government bond, which the House has already approved.
You're all living witnesses to the fact that the oil prices has been going down in the last few months, and it's still going down. As the oil price is going down, the revenue that's available to government is also going down. Once you have a loan and you agree on repayment, whatever your financial resources is, you have to pay what was agreed. So if it continues in that way, you get to a situation that the government may not be able to have money to carry out some other activities. They'll be concentrating in funding servicing loan. And we all know that the bond option for financing government activities is always cheaper.
On the issue of single revenue account, the Commissioner said this was misconstrued in some quarters. He stressed that single account does not imply government business with only one commercial bank, but one revenue account per bank, as against the multiple revenue accounts earlier practiced to ensure transparency and accountability. Acknowledging the press as one of the instruments for the development of the society, Mr. Okon urged them to continue to be a veritable partner in the Udom-led administration and assured of higher interface with journalists.
You, the press, you are one of the instruments for the development of our society. And our people require information to know how government is progressing. And so you are the way for it. It is important that you have the right information so that whatever you pass out to our people is also the right information, and that they are not misguided or misdirected in whichever form.
Also speaking, the Commissioner for Information and Communications, Mr. Nekanumana, stated that Governor Udom Emmanuel operates a people-oriented administration which is embedded on his 5-point agenda of wealth creation, employment generation, poverty alleviation, infrastructural consolidation and expansion, as well as economic and political inclusion. Corroborating the bond initiative, Mr. Umana asserted that it was in the best interest of the state, as government requires huge funds to finance the lofty projects lined up for the people, adding that Governor Emmanuel deserves commendation for demonstrating competence and ingenuity in fiscal management. He sued for understanding and support from all to enable government fulfill its obligations to the people.
For those who understand financing and those who understand how to make these things happen so you can free money. You can imagine what he just said. You're paying 3.5 billion and then you're suddenly paying 300 million. He says about 3.2 billion. That means you can construct more roads. That means you can award more contracts. That means you can even service contractual obligations as a web chief. And that will help government to provide more projects and amenities for the people.
It will be recalled that Akwa Ibom was among the first 11 states in the country to obtain approval from the federal government to restructure its loan to bond.
A digital map of Akwa Ibom State is being developed and will be put to use soon. The Commissioner for Lands and Town Planning, Prince Uwemi Taituk, announced this at the mandatory Continuous Professional Development MCPS program of the Nigerian Institute of Surveyors in Uyo. Correspondent Livingstone Daniel reports.
Prince Taituk, while declaring the mandatory Continuous Professional Development program MCPD open, said one of the cardinal objectives of the present administration is industrialization, stressing that anything needed for the state to achieve the goal will be put in place, including Digital Map. He described Digital Map as a computer-readable representation of a geographic area, which can be displayed or analyzed by the computer. According to Prince Taituk, Digital Map is a paradigm shift from analog paper map. The Commissioner listed some benefits of the Digital Map to include finding street addresses quickly, showing driving directions to places, assisting security agencies by displaying terrains. He advised the leadership of the institute to rid the profession of quacks and pledged government assistance to advance the profession.
Surveying has been in pari passu with civilization and peace. He worked about good neighborliness in professionalism and good ethical practices and the need for transparency and honesty in whatever you do. I, the Commissioner for Land and Town Planning here, declare this workshop open.
The chairman on the occasion, Surveyor Mfonisong, said the association, with its large membership, is working for a common goal of the state. Surveyor Isong called for synergy between the old hands and the younger ones vis-a-vis knowledge sharing.
We've seen that the white boys are not more intelligent than we are. Those who get registered from the west and other parts of this country are not more intelligent than those from the south side or those from Akwa Ibom State in particular. So the time has come for us to pool together our resources, our knowledge and our wisdom and get things done.
The state chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Surveyors, NIS, Surveyor Kun Mana, said the mandatory Continuous Professional Development Program is an annual event aimed at educating the professionals on the latest trend in the profession and also chart the way forward.
The MCPD is not a national surveyor as usual, but a form of deliberative and consultative from the issues of this provision and other matters. I would also analyze on you the professional challenges, recent innovation, and available technical solution, and adaptation of professional practice.
The Nigerian Institution of Surveyors Education Committee Chairman, Surveyor Clement Sandakban, said the profession over the years has metamorphosed from sun watching to geoinformatics, stressing that the leadership of the profession will continue to place training of members on the front burner.
Development in science has made it possible for us to represent things and our data to get, particularly these ones that are very juicy in the sciences. So we begin to play with digital information much more comfortable than hitherto. And that's how we get to having geoinformatics.
At the occasion, resource persons presented papers on various topics. The event had as its theme the holistic dimensions of geoinformatics. Livingstone Daniel reporting.
The Commissioner for Environment and Natural Resources, Dr. Inyobong Essien, has urged youths of Idide in Ibionibom local government area of job opportunities under the Udom Emmanuel administration. Dr. Essien gave the assurance when youths of Idide paid him a courtesy visit. According to Dr. Essien, the administration of Mr. Udom Emmanuel is committed to youth empowerment, job and wealth creation as well as industrialization. He called on the youth to provide an enabling environment when the execution of the projects kickstarts and assured them that their interests would be protected. Earlier, the spokesperson for the youths, Mr. Diamond Usaro, said they were in the office of the Commissioner to request that Idideb youths be given a sense of belonging. Workers in the employ of government have been advised to keep their records straight and retire as at when due, so as to get their full retirement benefits. The 2016 Budget Estimates Committee gave the advice during estimates defense by ministries, departments and agencies in the state. Eyano Paul takes us there.
The Permanent Secretary, State Budget Office, Pastor Nicholas Ekarika, said it has come to the notice of the committee that workers alter their records to stay longer than expected in service. Pastor Ekarika condemned such act, adding that such workers should be informed that their records in the Department of Establishment cannot be altered and that their action may affect them during retirement. The Permanent Secretary cited a case one worker argued that she was forcefully disengaged from service before her time, only to confirm in the Department of Establishment that she was due for retirement. He warned the perpetrators of altering workers' documents to desist from it, stressing that it will cost them their job when they are caught.
Because every civil servant, be you teacher, be you any other civil servant, were always gazetted. If you are gazetted, you cannot go and change and turn away the gazette. It is distributed to many places. If you turn the one that is in the library, you may not turn the one that is in Aganda General.
Another case that came up during the hearing was the issuance of fake licensing of vehicles and roadworthiness at the Internal Revenue Service, where it was reported that some touts parade themselves as agents of Internal Revenue Service by collecting money from people and issuing them with licenses that are not authentic. The committee enjoined Internal Revenue Service to beef up security and arrest anybody parading the vicinity without having anything to do with the Internal Revenue Service.
I'm told that there are people that don't have business to do, and I think I should use this opportunity to plead with everybody that visits Board of Internal Revenue to really get themselves being properly guided, because I'm told people go there, give fake receipt, fake documents. We have directed the security agencies to make sure that people that are not supposed to be there should not be there.
Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, led by the clerk, Mrs. Mandu Umoren, made its first appearance at the committee on Wednesday. Much was deliberated between the committee and the House, including the employment of Chief of Staff and the review of staff salary. Akwa Ibom State Hotels and Tourism Board and French Language Center also briefed the committee and made their demands known in the 2016 estimates, while the State Secondary Education Board, who had inconclusive reports, made their second appearance.
We came here and we were asked to bring the projection of teaching staff and non-teaching staff proposal for 2016, and we brought it today. With that, we've been able to satisfy the committee's requirement.
The hearing will end this week. Eyagino Paul reporting.
You're still watching AKBC 45 News at dawn. Governor Udom Emmanuel commended for his interests in the development of education and efforts at domesticating public procurement law in the state to enhance due process. This and more after the break.
There is a land of great beauty and wonderful people. Here, Mary Slessor called home until she passed on to greater glory. Here, Lord Lugard lived and administered Nigeria. The hills roll like the waves, and the waves rise like the hills. A land named after God, Akwa Ibom State, the land of promise. Welcome to Akwa Ibom, the land of promise.
You're still watching AM News, and I'm Samuel Udofia. Governor Udom Emmanuel has been commended for his interest in the development of education and efforts at domesticating the public procurement law in the state to enhance due process. This was made known at the Akwa Ibom Axis meeting of the National Association of Nigerian Students 2015 third quarter joint campus meeting held at the E-Library, Uyo. Correspondent Samuel Ayara has details.
Call for cancellation of the April 11, 2015 governorship elections in the state and a vote of confidence on the rector, Akwa Ibom State Polytechnic, Ikodosura, Barrister Israel Afia, were part of the issued at the end of the third quarter meeting of the Joint Campus Committee of the National Association of Nigerian Students. Addressing the students, the State Commissioner for Education, Mr. Enyekan Akpan, charged the students to live up to expectation as future leaders, noting that the era of mediocrity has long gone. The Commissioner, who was represented by a Principal Education Officer in the ministry, Mr. Anthony Asukwo, promised to support and take up genuine students' agitation with the authorities and encouraged them to support the Udom Emmanuel administration.
Any matter concerning student affairs, he has love, especially for the welfare of students. For this joint campus committee meeting, you should do it to the glory of God.
Chairperson Joint Campus Committee of NANS, Akwa Ibom State, Comrade Aquila Otobon advanced the need for the Commissioner of Education to embark on a fact-finding tour to institutions in the state to have a first-hand information on their challenges. Comrade Akpan, while declaring the student support for Governor Udom Emmanuel's administration's industrialization policy, informed the Commissioner of an event she referred to as Akwa Ibom Students' Invention Convention, saying that the event, which is built to mark this year's International Students' Day, will enhance students' entrepreneurial interest. On promotion of students' welfare, the JCC chairperson had this to say.
I sincerely appreciate the student leaders who are working to expand the frontiers of this struggle. I am happy with those who are genuinely keeping faith with the struggle in their various campuses. As we are duty-bound and committed for proactive engagement of the educational sector generally, we are not pleased with the continuous victimization of student leaders who dare to challenge the status quo, and we are ready to step up action, and we mean business.
A former NANS activist and public affairs analyst, Comrade Tijani Bolton Akpan, in a capacity building session tagged Sustaining Superior Performance Through Open Governance, called on students to positively engage the social media in developing advocacy strategies that will have the people, government, and future in focus. Highlighting challenges militating against students' welfare, some student leaders enumerated key problems in the various institutions to include insufficient accommodation, flooding, and bad road network in campus. Others complained of insufficient classrooms and laboratory equipment, lack of mobility as well as non-availability of financial institutions on campus, and provision of disability aid to physically challenged students.
Unavailability of student bus for her administrative functions, as well as we are here today, as well as construction of internal road network.
The event featured presentation of a Medal of Honor to the Education Commissioner in appreciation of his commitment to educational advancement, while Comrade Omodot Umo, a delegate to the just concluded International Boy Scout Convention in Japan, was decorated as an ambassador of the students. With a large section of student leaders in the state in attendance, the meeting also explored possibilities of resolving issues of leadership in some students' association. Samuel Ayara reporting.
In continuation of visits to orphanage and rehabilitation centers in Akwa Ibom, the state government Wednesday donated cash and food items to the James 127 orphanage in Ikpa, Eseleket local government area. The items included bags of rice, beans, gari, cartons of indomie, toiletries, groundnut oil and beverages. The state governor, Mr. Udom Emmanuel, who was represented by his special assistant on religious matters, Reverend Daniel Akwatang, said the gesture was a demonstration of his passion for the welfare of less privileged members of the society. He urged the orphans and widows at the center to put their trust in God, who never forgets the hopeless and widows, and to pray for the state administration to succeed in its vision for Akwa Ibom people. The governor commended the founders of the orphanage for their love and sacrifice in caring for the orphans and widows.
Governor, you don't need to do, Governor, very if you don't go to, Governor, you very well. That's why you don't want to do. You're leaking, I put up a man feel. Can I get it there? I mean, you went. Iba get the home back, Iba get anything, Iba get home. I'm not hoping to get governor. I'm going to say to the offer.
Earlier in his exhortation, Bishop Imo Otong admonished children to obey and respect those who care for them, so they may become what God ordained them to be in life. He advised them to be hardworking and take their studies seriously.
You may find yourself here, but definitely you are not of here.
Amen.
You are of God.
Oh, yes.
And as of God children, you have to behave yourself properly. And of God children, the word of God should not depart from you. As God children, you have to listen to your guardians.
In his response, the founder of the orphanage, Bishop Evans Udoyekong, who spoke alongside his wife, Evangelist Janet, described the visit as an answer to their years of prayer for divine connection. They thanked Governor Emmanuel for his vision for Akwa Ibom State and his love for the less privileged in the state, as well as pleaded with organizations and well-placed persons in the state to continue to assist the home.
It has been our prayers all over the years that you have given him and connect the government so that when he can ikru uboma abati ikru on government is
Challenges our activity, but yet as far as someone should be a young woman, so
the orphanage, established in 2008 with over 40 inmates, has a hostel block, skill acquisition center, classrooms and other facilities. Committee to investigate arms procurement begins sitting in Abuja. China accuses 11 government officials of negligence in the Tianjin explosion. This and more in our foreign and local news with Samuel Ayara.
The 13-man investigation committee set up to probe procurement of military hardware and ammunition in the armed forces has begun its sitting. The meeting, which is to hold in the office of the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongono, retired, according to some insider source, is already getting the needed assistance and support from interested parties. So far, no timeline has been given the committee to carry out its assignment. Chinese authorities have accused 11 government and port officials of negligence over the massive explosions that killed about 139 people in Tianjin earlier in the month. The exact cause of the explosions remains unknown, but it is reported that 34 people are still missing after the huge fireballs went into skies, destroying hundreds of homes. Cleaning up of the sites and tests to ascertain the living condition in the area has been ongoing to confirm fears of possible contamination of the rest of the city by chemicals. It, however, remains unclear if the 11 government officials have been taken to custody, though about 12 company executives have been reportedly detained. The intelligence and military community in the United States of America are in the final stages of confirming that a U.S. drone strike this week killed Junaid Hussein, linked to the Garland, Texas Cartoon Contest attack. Hussein is reported to have been killed in a specifically targeted drone strike while he was traveling in a vehicle in Raqqa, located in northern Syria, which ISIS militants claim as their capital. This is a second strike against a senior ISIS operative, as last week's drone strike killed Haji Mutaz, who was a top ISIS deputy to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. A U.S. government official has described Hussein's death as a great intelligence success.
That's a news package. You can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org or follow us on Twitter at AKBC45Radio or on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. And now to end the news, the top stories. The state government has given reasons for restructuring loans owed commercial banks to federal government bonds. According to the Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Kanokon, it is in our best interest. We also brought you a report that a digital map of Akwa Ibom State is to be produced soon. That's our package. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend. Good morning.